Welcome to the Generation Elevation podcast, a conscious, connected platform for those who are ready to manifest their dream life. I'm your host, Elise Riley, a former PT, now motivational speaker, igniting empowerment and transformation all across the globe. Here at Generation Elevation, we are committed to bringing you the most inspiring guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and advice to help you progress closer to living a life of your own terms. Welcome back to another episode of Generation Elevation. Today, I'm joined with a special guest all the way in Melbourne at Bulldogs Studios today. Today, I'm joined with music producer Kayo Marbilus. Hello, Kayo. How are you?
Good. It's a pleasure to be here and to finally meet you.
Yes. So I was just telling Kayo a funny story about how we met and what had happened previously before we met at that moment. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about that story today, right now, before we do get started. Before I do share this, make sure you follow this podcast, guys. Give me a 5-star review and make sure you screenshot, share on your story. Make sure you follow Kayo on all social media platforms as well. I'll link it in the show notes. So I was just saying to Kayo that I have a mentor that lives up in the Tamarine Mountains in the Gold Coast. So I went up to see her a few months ago now. Anyway, she actually read my tarot cards for me and she said to me, Elise, you're going to meet someone who's really into music. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I've been getting this download or this idea for me lately. And she said, you're not going to meet them in the Gold Coast though. This person, like they're going to be collaborating with you and your message and they're going to be in Melbourne. I was like, I don't really know anyone that's into music in Melbourne. So I was like, okay, cool, no worries. And took it as a grain of salt. Anyway, long story short, I actually had reached out to Kayo on Instagram and said, hey, like, thank you for following me or thank you for liking my post. And he had got back to me. Long story short, we ended up having an hour phone call that night. A FaceTime.
FaceTime conversation. Is it Instagram?
Yeah.
Is it Instagram? Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah. And so keep in mind, like we had never met before and it was just a matter of saying yes, leaping into that unknown, going, okay, well, let's just see what happens. And we had the most conscious conversation. I was like, Kayo, we need to meet next time in Melbourne. Like, let's make this 100%. Happen. So here we are today recording, collaborating on this podcast. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, good. We'll make it happen. It was meant to be for sure.
100%. We were also just talking about synchronicities and I believe like us meeting and doing this podcast today is a massive synchronicity. So I believe if you're listening right now, you're about to receive exactly what you need to hear right at this time in your life.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. So Kayo, tell me a little bit about yourself for the listeners that don't really know who you are. What makes you who you are today?
I come from a small town called Canberra and I pretty much started writing poetry when I was 15. I was kind of lost, we've all been there. We've all been, in high school and we go through our issues. I think they call it high school blues. I have the wrong word or whatever you call it. But, just going through high school, trying to figure out who you are as a person. And strangely enough, I was getting into my schoolyard tussles and things like that. I was born in Ghana, West Africa, and I came here when I was 2. So I was a first generation African in Australia. So I was caught getting pulled between having to go by my parents' culture, but also living in Australia amongst different nationalities and cultures, but predominantly Anglo-Saxon and stuff, but that was okay. So I would, things would happen and then my parents would understand. So I was an angry kid, but somehow through the grace of the universe or something, obviously now in hindsight, looking back now, it was all set in stone before I even knew what was going to happen, as the universe does. I just had a knack for poetry writing at 14, 15, year 9, year 10. And I just started writing poetry. And long story short, when I first started writing poetry, because as you know, it's poetry, then it becomes lyrics, then lyrics become music. That's how it goes. When I first started writing poetry, it was just fun, bit of mucking around. I look back at poetry I wrote back then. I'll probably laugh at what I wrote, but little did I know I was planting the seed and the powers that be were planting the seed of what was going to be obviously what is today of Kayo Marbilus. So long story short, what I realize now is that as far back as then when I was 15, 16, 17, I was manifesting then, because what I was doing was, before I could even write my own lyrics and put music together myself, I'll be listening to the big artists at the time in those days, Snoop Dogg, who everyone knows who he is, the Snoop Doggs and the Tupacs and those artists of those days. I'll be listening to their music and then closing my eyes and picture myself being the artist on stage and so forth, having this audience. And that image and that idea stuck with me pretty much through those years of when I started putting music out. But keep in mind, I started putting out music at a time in 2004 when I first started putting out the music. So let's fast forward a couple of years later. When I started putting out actual music, I actually was like, okay, let's do this. Let's start actually being the artist. Because I've had the artist name Kayo Marbilus since I was like 16, 17.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to about, and that's like the early 2000s. So going fast forward a bit, 2004, when I put out my first couple of tracks, I was like, okay, give this a go. So I started putting out music at a time where there was no social media. If you wanted to get your music out, you had to press them on, burn. I don't know if you guys remember the burning CDs, like copying songs onto the CD.
Whoa.
I shows my age, right? And I'll copy the music onto a CD and I'll just copy it. So I'm pretty much like pressing my own music.
Wow.
And independently. So I started pressing my own music and I'll press like 100 and then I'll go to like the $2 shop and buy like empty CD cases. I buy like 100 of them. Back in those days, you could buy like 100 blank CDs. And you use that to either download music illegally or whatever online. It was called LimeWire at the time and a few other things. But I would put my music on it and I'd go around to the malls and the shopping centers and just my mates or whatever and just sell them to people or give them away and I'd post them. So because I started doing that at a time where there was no social media, what happened was as technology elevated and kind of grew, I grew with the technology. My hustle remained the same, but it just kind of got easier. And what I realized now is that the energy that was inside me, that whole hustle, that whole thing was there. And whatever was going to happen in life, through my life, I was going to just evolve with that. So when Facebook first came on the scene in 2007, I was just all over it. Boom. Just promoting myself and so forth. And as the years progressed, I just pretty much didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but I knew the one thing was I was too invested in this dream. And I couldn't see myself doing anything else. It's like, this is what I'm doing. And as I was saying to you early on about I was manifesting early, I just had this confidence within myself that I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to do this kind of thing, right? And by the grace of God and by the grace of the universe, it kind of just, as the years went by, I managed to achieve things here and there. And one promise I always made to myself was, as long as I achieve one thing in that year, the next year going into the next year, it would be enough for me to keep going. So if I could look back in the last 12 months, I've done something that I find to be perceived as being achievable, then I could keep going. And that's what I've pretty much done. So as the years progressed, I managed to just, do things where I was getting songs on TV shows, radio, bits and pieces here and there. And that would motivate me just to keep going. Mind you, I'm doing all this from Canberra. It's a small town, very conservative. Shout out to Canberra, by the way. I never rag on it, but it's the reality. And if you're from Canberra, you know what I'm talking about. And a lot of people, there's a few people who've come from Canberra that are the celebrities. I won't name and shame them. There's other big names who've come from Canberra. And once they leave, they're like too scared to talk about it. But the reality is like your environment is what makes you. So I used to always rag and say to myself, since I moved to Melbourne 3.5 years ago, I used to always say to myself, I wonder what my life would have been like if I hadn't moved to Canberra, if I was raised in Melbourne, if I was raised in Sydney. But the reality is, first of all, you can't think like that because you never know. But two, I think regardless, this is where it was meant to be. Because I come from a small town, I had to hustle and push harder. And because people who lived in Melbourne or Sydney, because Canberra's only a 2-hour drive from Sydney, I spent a lot of time growing up there as a kid, like with family. There's a massive Ghanaian community in Sydney. So I spent a lot of time growing up in Sydney. So because of that, my surroundings have been familiar with Sydney from a kid. When I got into the music industry independently, that was the first place I reached out to. So funny enough, I was able to connect with a lot of DJs and producers and I was always going to Sydney, networking with them. But they never took me serious. I was from Canberra. So most people in the situation that I was in, you would have thought they would quit. And a lot of artists who I came up with over the years in Canberra, a lot of them just stopped because they were like, oh, it's just my dream. The thing isn't manifesting fast enough. I mean, they wouldn't have used the word manifestation, but they would have said, this thing that I'm chasing isn't coming fast enough, so people quit. And they see them just working a normal odd job, being bored, just hating life and so forth. But I was like, that was the difference between me and them, was that I wasn't doing this for like a fad or I'll try it. This is in my DNA. This is what I was meant to do. And that's what was shown. That's what the outcome and the results is self-explanatory from the achievements and the little things I've done and so forth. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much been in a nutshell. And I just pretty much over the years progressed. I just believed in myself. One thing that I self-taught myself was the term believing in yourself. It's more than a word. It's so bigger than that. It's believing in yourself so much that what you want to do is so real and so achievable that your parents, your best friends, all these people that love you so much. See, because what happens is it's like a trickery. So the reason why a lot of people, I believe, quit and stop doing what they're doing isn't because of the haters and stuff, because the haters, that's what they're meant to do. The haters motivate me and they motivate you. I'm sure they motivate you, because they say when you start getting hated on, it means you're doing the right thing, because you're making too much noise. But the scary thing, what people, if you're listening right now, what you have to be connected and understanding of is that when your parents or your friends or the ones that genuinely do love you give you the wrong advice, that's when people start to question it and go, oh, maybe I am doing the wrong thing, because it's come from people who actually genuinely care about you. So it kind of plays with your mind. You're like, shit. You're like, oh, maybe and subconsciously, like, you're not sitting there going, oh, maybe they're right. But when you hear it time and time again over the years and they're not supporting you and they're kind of like taking the piss out of you and blah, 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 subconsciously in the back of your mind, you kind of slow down on what you're meant to do. Yes, I've done a few things over the time, but I can honestly say in front of everybody now, and I think part of my subconscious mind over the years kind of slowed me down a bit, and I didn't go as hard because of close friends or people kind of not really giving 100% support. Because what happens is these people that love you, your parents, your friends and whatever, they're not you. They're not you. Like, there's only a select few of us in this world who are chosen, or this is sound a bit weird, but who have got that spiritual energy and that go-getting type of thing where it's like, I'm going to be something, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Most people live the rat race, they're yes men, where they're happy just to work 9 to 5. They're happy to be mediocre and just do basic, follow what's simple, what's easy. So when they see someone like yourself or someone that they know who they've known for a long time doing that, they actually kind of get scared for you and go, oh, I've got to give them advice. I've got to give them advice because I care about them. But what they actually don't realize they're actually doing is actually doing worse. It's actually the opposite. And I think as time is evolving in the world, the way the world's going with like technology and knowledge and information, people can now have different perspectives on certain things. I used to cop all of that, but something within inside me was like, this is something I've got to keep on going and keep on doing.
Wow, that is so powerful and such a synchronicity, because I was explaining to my clients that exact concept this week when everyone listening to this podcast right now, I know that you totally resonate with what Kayo is saying in regards to you have these goals and dreams for yourself and what you see for you and your life. And potentially when you share that with other people, you may get this adverse reaction from especially people you love, your parents, your family, your best friends, where go, oh, like, are you sure? Like, what if you fail? Or shouldn't you be worried about this? Or like, what happens if this happens? Or you should just probably like choose something a bit smaller, or be realistic. Be realistic. So many people would tell me, Elise, be realistic, choose something a bit more achievable. And it's like, well, okay, everyone has a different model of the world. This is something they teach you in NLP, and this is what I'm certified in. And when you're respecting everyone's model of the world, everyone has different beliefs and perceptions about what is possible. It doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It's just for what is in their model of the world. So if Kayo and I and you listening right now have a perception of the world that anything is possible if you put your mind to it, if you manifest it, literally did an episode on manifestation, this last one before you. So awesome. Synchronicity.
It's all connected, it's all flowing.
Oh, it's all connected. But yeah, like if you are manifesting these things and you're saying, okay, this is what I believe is possible because I know that when I put my mind to something, I can do it. I literally went to Joe Dispenza yesterday and he was saying people are coming to his workshops blind and walking out being able to see. So it really just depends on your perception of what is possible. When you share that with another person, If they have limiting beliefs or a perception that is slightly different to you in regards to what is possible, they are going to project their own beliefs onto you about what they believe is possible based off their model of the world. So out of love, they're going to share with you that projection, oh, you should probably choose something more realistic, because they don't want to see you fail, quote unquote, and there is no failure, there's feedback. However, for them, it's failure because they believe in failure in their model of the world.
Projection.
So, yeah.
It's a self-projection within themselves of because they can't do it, so therefore they feel like you can't do it.
Yeah, and it's not that they can't do it, they just believe in their world.
They choose not to want to do it. Yeah.
100%. So, Kayo, I'm curious, how did you, throughout all those times where you didn't have that support from other people, how did you still keep that belief in yourself to continue doing what you do and follow that dream of yours?
Imagination. I think it's imagination. I'm self-diagnosed ADHD, and I always say self-diagnosed because I haven't gone to a doctor, but I'm 100%, I can 100% know I've got it from just the way I was when I was a child and just all over the shop, this and that, and at school. So because I've got ADHD and I've always been a creative person, I've always been able to channel all the stuff out. I've had more imagination and creativity in my mind as opposed to negativity that's coming in, if that makes sense. I've had so much stuff coming in. And I've always found that in my worst time when I'll feel like there's so much weight on my shoulders coming from left and right. Because there was a time where, like, for example, adding to the question, so one of the most crucial moments I remember when I was like at the crossroads where I could have quit was when 2007, 2008, and I was really putting out music a lot, doing this and that, and I started making a name for myself, and I was just getting hate from everywhere. And online as well, getting trolled, and all I was trying to do was just work with everyone. I won't say it was hurtful. It was in moments, but what I'm trying to get at is that
they're hating on like your music or
just hating on I think now looking back in hindsight now, I'm looking back, I think it's just human nature. Like people were just hating on me because I guess at the end of the day, they're like, where did this guy come from? He just come from nowhere. We've been doing this beat for all this time. Now he's just doing he's got an album launch. He's got all these people coming, but it's because I'm putting in the work and I'm paying the money. People would just come from all over the place and attack and attack and attack. But I think I had to go through that then, and it was coming from Canberra, and I realized, because this is from having a lot of conversations with myself, like I always just talk to myself. I don't know if it's apparently the most smartest people in the world talk to themselves. So I don't know how smart I am, but academically I wasn't that bright, but I think socially I'm all right there. A lot of talking to myself, and it made me realize a lot of things that when it was happening, I was like, it was just a lot of hate. So what I would do is when things got heavier, I got stronger in those times. And the reason why I needed to go through those things at those times is because, the universe was telling me, you want to have all these things. And the universe is talking to me like in my spirit, and it's saying, do you know that where you want to go, there's going to be more and it's going to be bigger? And I could feel it talking to me. And I was like, okay, I understand what the universe is trying to say to me. The universe is trying to say to me is that have faith and trust in me, knowing that as you go through this journey, there's going to be a lot of things, obstacles, but you're going to be okay. You're going to come out of it at the end of it fine, and it will make sense. And that's how it was kind of like talking to me like 10, 15 years ago. And it's true. Being through it all, ups and downs, the haters, blah, 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 being ripped off thousands of dollars, this and that. And even to this day, still people try and test you but if I didn't go through all those things back then, I wouldn't be able to keep pushing through now and just keep going where I'm going. Because I'm self-managed, never had a manager, never had an agent.
Wow.
Never had a manager, never had an agent. So I became the songwriter, I became the artist, the self-marketing person, the promoter, the manager. And because of that, I had to learn a lot of skills, how to talk to people, how to negotiate, how to sift through the bullshit, and a whole bunch of other things as well. So, and I think I've had to learn all that because whatever's coming next, I want to have the tools in front of me to then, and so forth. I hope I've answered the question, but pretty much I've just always, and most importantly, I think I realized also that me as a person, why I started doing the music in the first place, the anger, I'll say trauma to a little extent when I was a kid, the trauma and a few little things, which is more who I am as a person, which makes me a strong person. I always promised myself that first and foremost, who I am as a person, gives me strength. The music and everything else is just like child's play. So that's how I pretty much managed it, by just knowing that one of the biggest things I used to say was, if somebody would attack me online, and I would say, well, if I don't know you personally, because if I've done something wrong to somebody, I'll be like, yeah, I'm a dickhead. Like, I deserve that. But I used to always say, if I don't know you personally and you talking shit to me on social media, you're just hating on me. There's no other thing. And there's no other reason, right? Because
well, hurt people, right?
Hurt people. And I knew that back then as well. I knew that I'd be like, man, I feel sorry for that person because they must be going through some stuff. And you feel for it. And you look and you see these people, 5 years, 10 years later, and it's just like, they're not where they could have been. And you know what's ironic, and one of the most funniest things out of everything I've just discussed with you, a lot of people that would attack me, right? Like full guy me on social media, whatever.
Online, yeah.
Online, just talking crap, whatever. They were in the industry as well. And I'm like, you know what's crazy? You know what like makes me even laugh to this day? It's like, you obviously don't have social intelligence, because if you just reached out to me and said, hey, Kayo, let's work together. Because I've never said no. If people reach out to me, I always reply, or I message people back, or I think that comes part and parcel of me being independent, is that you got to talk to everyone, because you don't know where business is going to come from where.
Yeah.
I haven't got time to be like, and I'm a humble person, so I'm not arrogant anyway, but I've always just been a person that I'll talk to you, I'll help you. If I can't help you, I'll direct you to somewhere else, because people, as human beings, some people get so protective, like whether it's musician, whether it's sports, whether it's acting, whether you're a trader, you've got a business. People get a bit funny of like people coming into their space of professionalism, of employment, and thinking, oh, if I help this person, maybe they're going to do better than me or whatever. And there's people, that's how people think, right?
Oh, 100%. I literally have done a competitiveness podcast early on in this show on comparison and how to stop comparing yourself, because it's a thing. It comes from this place of fear and scarcity, like someone's going to take something that I have away from me.
Major insecurities. So I used to have people like, because Canberra's a small place, so I feel like, I didn't perceive it as what I'm about to say. Like, I perceive it as just, I'm just like, let's just work with each other. Let's just help bring Canberra up. Everyone's shitting on us with the underdog city, but people were very competitive and very territorial. And I'll have people attack me on that, and I'd actually laugh, and I'd be like, you're choosing to obviously attack somebody who's, you're seeing, making noise, doing this and this, and instead of reaching out to me and saying, hey, let's work together and I can help you, or we can help each other, you choose to attack me online. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. Well, essentially, if you're feeling triggered by another person, or if someone's feeling triggered by you, what's essentially happening is they are reflecting back to you something that you are suppressing or rejecting within yourself. So if you are doing the work, Kayo, and you're, putting out content online, you're pushing, and you're going after what you want, and they are not, and they're sitting back kind of watching you online going, oh, like, is he doing so well and I'm not? It's like, they're focusing on the lack of what they want, the separation between them and their goal, and therefore projecting that onto you. So this happens time and time again, like you said, in every single industry. You might see it in the gym, especially, whereby you might see someone in there and have a judgmental thought towards them. Like, what are they projecting back to you? In the past, I would judge a girl walking in the gym with a crop and a sports bra, like a sports bra and some cropped shorts, like really short shorts. And for me, I would judge her. I have a judgmental thought only because she was reflecting back to me, not a specific person, but like that person would have reflected back to me how insecure I was in my body and the fact that I couldn't do that. She was reflecting back to me her confidence and the confidence that I was choosing not to embody. And as soon as I did the inner work on myself, and I'm sure you can resonate, as soon as you start doing the inner work, these people stop triggering you. They become your friends. You start collaborating. You feel abundant. You give more rather than be in this place of scarcity, like, oh, no, don't take my money, or don't take this opportunity, or I'm not going to share. Because when you come from this, you limit your abundance, you limit your manifesting capabilities because your energy is in lack.
Exactly.
And in order to attract in what you want, you need to be the energy that you wish to attract. So if you're in lack, if you're in sadness, if you're in fear, you're going to project that and you're going to get that. Rather, if you're in love, if you're in gratitude, if you're in wholeness, you're going to get that and you're going to project that.
Big time. That's well said. It's all about being consciously aware, I guess, of just not taking on any negative emotion. One negative emotion that you think about yourself, because that's obviously holds so many limitations in regards to how you think, feel, and do, but also making sure you don't project negative emotions and energy and stuff to other people and hate and things like that. I guess it's, pass and parcel is pretty much the same thing. But yeah, man, I think that level of, I think people like that though need to first, you couldn't really have that kind of conversation with someone who's just not even aware of that kind of stuff. It'd be more just breaking down like, hey, stop talking this, stop doing that. And then like you just said, having a conversation and just being like, what you're doing, you're projecting it pretty much of you're projecting that negativity towards that person because it's who you want to be. You know what I mean? They're pretty much triggering you because they're betraying and doing things that is obviously triggering you because you want to have been able to achieve what they're doing. And then once they figure that out and believe that and then start doing other things more productively and thinking more in a positive way, then as time goes on, they can learn the other stuff as well. But because you and I, we've done this for so many, many, many years of just the basics, like ground stuff, you just get more, you just take down the layers, different levels to this,
I think as well, like, you can only lead a horse to water. Like, the more conscious you become of your subconscious patterns and behaviors, the better person you'll be, the more opportunities you will attract, the more synchronicities will happen in your life, the more things you'll start to manifest. And honestly, it's not always comfortable work. And I ask my clients all the time, if someone's triggering them, how is this you? How is that person being you right now? How is this situation reflecting back to you? Maybe you're stuck in traffic and something really annoying happened or frustrating at work. How are you being slow in your life? Where are you being stuck in your life? Where are you choosing to refuse to go forward? Or where are you letting your external environment make you affect the way you feel? Or how are you judging other people? If someone's judging you, how are you judging them? There's so many ways you can look at it to instead be a victim of your external environment to then be a victor and actually be at cause of the way you feel. So the only way you can really do that is to do the inner work, become conscious, get a coach, do whatever you've got to do, read the books, study, to become as conscious as possible, because when you are conscious, that is when you become that best version of yourself. And when you were speaking before, Kayo, I saw a TikTok the other day on this girl explaining cringe mountain. And so I don't know if anyone listening to this right now has heard of this. And so maybe I might just like credit that girl's work and do it on my page because it's so great. Essentially, cringe mountain is when you're walking up the mountain and you're doing the work, you're hustling, you're on that love hustle. You and I, we know that love hustle, and I'm sure if you're listening, you also know that too. You're on that love hustle and maybe it feels a bit cringe. You're like, oh, should I post that story? Oh, I've got to like do this reel. Oh, got to put it out there, and you've got to go up to that person and say like, look, I really like you. Like, can we go on a date? And leave it up to fate to see whether that happens or not. Or I've got to go pitch my song to this big like company, and if they like it, they like it. If they don't, oh, well, I've got to just go back to the drawing board. I've got to ask this guest to be on my podcast. If they say no, they say no, right? There's this cringe mountain. There's this moment where it's like, oh, and it feels really cringy. And the people at the bottom of cringe mountain, they see you go up and they're like laughing at you. They're laughing at you. They're like, oh, Kayo, Elise, listeners, they're also cringe, right? And then you get to the top of cringe mountain and it's a speed slope down to exactly who and where you want to be in life. You get those manifestations, you get those synchronicities, you get to quote unquote the top of like the mountain of where you want to be, but this is down cringe mountain and at the top of your goals mountain, and everyone's asking you how you did it.
Exactly. And the funny thing about that is, the ironic thing is that out of those people at the bottom of the mountain who are like laughing at you, once you get there, you achieve all your goals and you start, achieving the goals and they start seeing it and start, seeing positive results. Some of them will act like they never said it. They'll just be like, oh, hey man, hey best friend, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. They'll just pretend, they'll pretty much just test your intelligence really, as if like you're dumb, you don't know what they're doing. Some people will just continue to hate. And the ones that are so dark within themselves, even when you do achieve it, people are always going to find a way to even put a negative on those achievements, right? But going back a little bit, so when when you say to people, okay, don't worry about what people say to you. Like, forget, like, who cares if that person pissed you off on the bus or that person annoyed you? When people say it to me, I used to always be like, well, how am I supposed to, like, do that? Because I'm feeling it. And what someone said to me once was, literally probably like a year ago or two, and they're like, well, you're still getting angry about this person, whatever they've done, but they're not even thinking about it. Like, you're carrying some weight on your shoulder. You're carrying some weight about someone or something or a situation, but it's obviously a situation that always involves somebody. But the reality is that you're still carrying that stress or that, negative emotion, but that person's like not even thinking about you. So that moment of time, ladies and gentlemen, when you're thinking about that person that's pissed you off, they're most likely not thinking about you at that moment of time. They're probably doing something fun or doing something else or pissing someone else off. So, that's the one thing I want to leave with you guys. Is just you got to just let that shit go, because you're allowing other people to affect you when, one, they don't deserve to occupy that space, and two, they're not thinking about you anyway. They're not thinking about you, or they're not, worrying about that situation. So why should you carry it on?
Well, that's perfect, right? If you're thinking about what you want to create in your future, what you want to manifest, like if you're listening to this right now, what is that goal? What is that thing? What is that destiny? What is that thing you've always wanted to achieve? Maybe it's a childhood dream. Whatever that is, bring it to the forefront of your mind right now. I know you've got it, because I know that it lies within the depths of your soul. And so many people constantly battle themselves being like, oh no, I'm not ready yet, or I need this amount of money to go in with it. I need this to happen. It's just not the right time. They have all the right things, the right opportunities, but it's just not the right time. And I literally went to Joe Dispenza yesterday, his one-day event, and he said, if you want to create your future, you cannot bring the old projections and feelings and emotions of the past with you.
Exactly.
Because if you do, you're going to predict the future based off your past. And in order to be a conscious creator, in order to live this abundant life, I'm finding that every single guest I have on that has achieved success, they will never bring those past emotions, those past beliefs of I'm not good enough with them to that moment, because in order to grow and open those new doors, you have to close those old ones.
Your current time, your reality in your present time is alive and it's flourishing. So you can't go back in the past.
No, but by bringing up the past and if you keep telling that story of, oh, this person cheated on me, or that boss, or that girl, or that guy, or whatever, that situation, I lost it all. If you keep bringing up that story, if you're always in pain, if you keep bringing that story and telling people about your pain or telling people about your injuries, then you're always going to be bringing your past back into the future and back into the present moment. So it's like you can't take that with you. You can't get there from there.
Exactly. And the reality is, and the way I can sell it to you guys is, and the way I can say it to the audience is, look, let's be honest, we are, as human beings, we do want to show people, like I'll show them, and I'll be lying if I said to you some of my motivation hasn't come from, I'm going to show them, because you have to have a little bit of that, because that, I believe, is positive projection. That's positive. You turn in a negative into a positive by taking, some of the things that have happened to you in life, some of the things people have done to you. We wouldn't be human if we just literally just blocked it out. You've got to use something with it, right?
To you, for you.
Yeah, you got to use that energy's got to go somewhere, And a part of it has to. You owe it to yourself to take that energy and those things that people have done to you and turn it into something. Do you know what I mean?
So for the listeners, they want to write things down. So in a framework type of way, maybe a 3-step process, what would be your advice for those people out there that potentially are going through those challenging times right now? Maybe they don't have that support, or maybe they have got a bit of haters happening, or maybe they're just going through a general challenge or struggle right now. What would be like a 3-step process for them to move through that and create or go after that thing that they do actually want?
The first thing is, I'm terrible at writing things down, and it's actually a really important thing. And for those who are good at writing things down, or at least having an idea, the idea in your mind is the start. Have an idea first and foremost of what you want to do. Like, have a goal, like vision the end goal of what you want to do. in a month or 6 months or 12 months. And then within that 12 months, have a bit of an idea of what you want to achieve and what you want to do in that year. But you got to be realistic with yourself and ask yourself, what do I need to do that? Because the first thing is people talk a lot and say, this is what I want to do. And I'm not saying they're shit talkers, but they're just not knowledgeable on regards to what that step may be, you know? So it's a matter of, for example, and for some people who are starting off doing certain things, or they might be going to the next stage or whatever, or the third stage, that's going to take networking. That's going to take asking. You can't be, you know, you've got to understand that you've got to ask. Don't be afraid to ask for help. But it's not asking for help. When you see it like that, like I'm asking for help, it makes you feel like, oh, I'm asking for help. But no, you're networking. Like the Cringe Mountain thing. You've got to understand that if you don't ask somebody, or if you don't reach out to that person based on your worried they're going to say no, or they're going to not respond, then you're forever going to be stuck in that spot. You've got to understand, first of all, you've got to understand and know that you are going to be told no. You are going to get negative whatever. But the reality is you've got to also understand that as long as you keep pushing forward and you're networking with people like we are here and reaching out, after a while, your brain kind of sets into this rhythm, this different pattern. Because as human beings, we've got so much skill and knowledge and stuff going on in our brain that we haven't tapped into yet. Like, for example, I've told you I'm doing my thing and I'm still learning new things every day of different skills and stuff, you know. So my advice is, the step one is just having the conversation with yourself is, what it is that I want to do? Who am I as a person? What is it that I'm trying to do this year? Am I trying to go to the gym and compete and be fit? Okay, what does that mean? Do I have to then reach out to somebody in the industry and get advice in regards to eating, dietary, gym training regimes, things like that? If you don't want to ask someone, if you're scared to reach out to people and ask them for whatever reason, or you're concerned, jump online. You've got social media now, you've got the internet, you've got YouTube. If you don't want to ask somebody, but you've got to start somewhere. Doing nothing will get you nothing. And pretty much just knowledge is power, you know. Look online. I'm always online watching podcasts. And another advice I can give you guys is, whatever field of industry that you're working in, look up those people you look up to, listen to them speak, go back and look at their history, where they started. And this is what I've been doing since day one. When I first started putting out music when I was younger, I used to look at the documentaries and the bios of these artists, and once upon a time they were just like me, this 15-year-old kid or this 20-year-old kid just trying to just start somewhere. They all start somewhere, and all their stories is always the same. They started from nothing. They had nothing. They had haters. And a lot of those guys I used to look up to in America, they've gone through even worse stuff, in and out of jail, being shot, blah, blah, blah. They've been through everything where I would have definitely probably given up. But it's that, just believe in yourself, keep going, and you don't have to know all the steps for the final goal. All you have to know, or for the final outcome, all you have to at least be honest with yourself is that you're willing to work hard towards the next step, and then the next step, and then it'll just work out itself. And most importantly, just be honest with yourself, you know. You've got to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, am I doing enough? Am I doing what I'm meant to be doing? You know, reach out to people. I did another podcast a couple of weeks ago and I said the same thing. I've said it for years. You've got to reach out to people. I'm on my phone flat stick, like, to the point where it's like, you know, it's probably a bit of a problem, but I don't care.
Well, this connection here would not have happened if I didn't reach out to Kayo.
Exactly. So I don't know if I'm making sense here with people, but
of course you are.
You've got to just not give a shit as well. You've got to just not care. And you know what? The funny thing is, people you reach out to that are where you're trying to be, like they're, let's say, up here doing whatever they're doing, even if they tell you no, even if they don't respond, even if I've had situations where I've come really close to working with somebody. I won't say any names, but I came really close a few times where I nearly ended up networking and doing some songs with some well-known actors in Australia, talking to them, you know, talking on the phone, blah, blah, blah. Then they just ghosted me. And it kind of hurt. I wouldn't be human if I said it didn't kind of annoy me in some way. But then I said to myself, I mean, it is what it is. Like, first and foremost, the fact that they came into my space for that period of time, and even though it didn't work, that's enough for me to know I'm still doing the right thing. But even if somebody on that level says something or does something in a way to you that's negative, it doesn't mean they're actually better than you or right. It actually should say to you that, well, okay, I'm going to challenge myself now because I know that I can still, if I want to, believe myself to an extent where I can actually go above where they are, if that makes sense. I can not just, these people I looked up to once upon a time, I know I can at some point be in a point where
you can do that too.
I can do that too, but then they'll be coming to me for help. You have to have that feeling. You have to have the conversations within yourself. And this is where the whole spirit thing and the manifestation comes in. It's not physically someone talking in your head, but it's a feeling. And once you tap into that feeling and that spirit is talking to you, then you start to realize what's going on. Because like I was saying before, sometimes you don't realize actually how powerful you are to the point where these people that look up to you, that you look up to, who on TV, the celebrities, maybe they don't want to work with you because they feel like you're going to outshine them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And things like that.
So to close that loop, you said that the 3 pieces of advice is to write things down.
Sorry, I went off on a tangent then.
No, it's okay.
I do because of my ADHD.
You're okay.
But,
So to write things down.
Write things down.
And to then go reach out to people. Connect. Yeah.
If not reach out to people, seek the knowledge, whatever that may be.
And then the third step is, seek the knowledge. So go ask for help or ask for advice of the people that have done it. Go to the people that have done the thing that you want to do or are doing it and ask for their advice.
I adding to that, because it just popped in my head, I think it was like 50 Cent or people like that on that caliber, and he actually said that, like, he goes, everybody helps somebody. I think Jay-Z said it, like big people that said everybody helps somebody. Everybody who's gotten to where they are, they put in the groundwork, but there was someone there that, because you can be the best at whatever you are in the world. I mean, I know there's a lot of talented people out there in the world that just never got that chance, no matter how hard they tried. But also because they didn't really network like they should, like push themselves out there and have that confidence. They had the skill, but they didn't have the other bit. And it goes part and parcel. You've got to do more than just your trade. You've got to do the networking. You've got to do the reaching out. You've got to do the business meetings. You've got to do the generic copy and paste the messages to people and ask questions and things like that. You know, I call this whole thing, it's like a numbers game. The trick that I'm going to teach you guys today, and I said it the other day, and I've said it on all my other interviews, and I want to say it again today, is that to make it easy for you guys who find it hard to put together words or what do I say, take your time, whether it takes an hour or half an hour, whatever. Think about what you want to say and ask somebody for that, whatever that support may be, whatever question it may be, whatever you want to ask them. And then just like copy and paste. And when I say copy it, and then just send it to like 50 people. You're going to get someone's going to message you back. And that's how I've always done a lot of my stuff. Like that way, if you're worried and concerned about being told no, because the reality is you might get someone say, yeah, cool, let's do it. If you message 1 or 2 people, and you might not. Sometimes you don't even get a response. Nothing, they reply. But if you message 20, 30 people with the same question, you're going to get something.
Yeah, and even to add on that thread is that my dad, when I was younger, would always say, Elise, if you don't ask for what you want, you will end up in the same position that you are in now. And are you in trouble now? No. Are you dying now? No. Are you alive and you're healthy and you're good? Yes. Okay, so if you were to go and ask someone for a favor or ask someone for help and they said no, the worst thing that could happen is you stay in the same position you were in before you even asked. So reality, you can't lose because you lose if you don't ask. And so that you might as well go through and just ask because you either stay in the same position or you move forward.
100%.
And I wanted to quickly just touch on, Kayo, spirituality because I was explaining to you before, it's so interesting when I meet people like yourself and people, especially males who are very conscious beings, like it really intrigues me to know, like, how did you come across spirituality? Like for me, I'm surrounded by so many women who are doing this personal development work. However, only recently I'm starting to meet these men that are doing the work and super conscious, being like doing their manifestations, very spiritual. And I feel like it's this underlying thing that no one talks about. So I really want to talk about that here today with you. Tell me, how did you get into spirituality?
Oh, man.
What was that moment for you?
This is going to trip you out because it wasn't like in my adult, as I've told the viewers and listeners today. So I was born in Ghana. I'm from West Africa, and witchcraft and voodoo is a very big thing. And being the kid that I was always very listening and kind of like too smart for my own good type of thing. Like I was that 9-year-old kind of like listening and taking a lot of information and processing it, right? So from the age of like 7 or 8, I kind of knew about voodoo and witchcraft and demons and stuff, and I knew exactly what that was. Not to say that my parents were like openly talking about it, but you just pick up a few little conversations over the years.
Yeah, your culture.
My culture, exactly.
That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah, so I wasn't raised like religiously, like my parents would pull out the Bible and stuff. None of that happened. My mum had a Bible and she would pray here and there, but it wasn't like, it wasn't spoken to me about. But I from the age of 8, started praying just in my room. I remember clear as day praying and just being a kid and saying, "Oh, dear God, can you please give me like a toy car while I'm under my bed?" Like just you know.
Mine was to win the Easter raffle at school.
Yeah, right? So me being spiritual, my spirituality started when I was a child, praying to God when I was a kid. I had a couple of, to this day, I'm not too sure if it was just me dreaming or not, but I think I had about 2 or 3 out-of-body experiences when I was a child sleeping, and I used to see myself sleep. So that was a bit of like a
astral projection.
Yeah, when I was like 10. And then over the years, so pretty much from the age of 8 or 9, I've always just prayed. So I done that. Up to this day, I still do. So I've always had this believing in God and stuff. If you don't know me personally, you wouldn't know that I believe in God. People just wouldn't know that I'm religious in that aspect. I pray all the time and stuff. And from praying a lot and just knowing there's something more out there, there's been a lot of, I think that goes part and parcel of me being in music and me doing my music stuff. How I told you how I'll just get hunches and just something, I just feel something, someone's talking to me, about going certain directions and being protected and so forth. But in regards to the manifestation stuff, the manifesting and the law of attraction, the law of vibration, Bob Protka, rest in peace, all that stuff, I started getting into that stuff probably the last 5 years. And the reason why I could put a timestamp on it was because before I moved to Melbourne, I started really getting into it, and I knew I had to start feeling what I wanted. And I remember when I was living in Canberra and I was looking over the apartment in Gungahlin, shout out to Gungahlin, I was looking over the apartment in Gungahlin and it was just like a few little apartment buildings and stuff. Then I was like, I had to emotionally, spiritually let go and tell the universe I'm ready to go to Melbourne. Like I just felt like I was done in Canberra. I actually felt like I was empty. There's nothing else for me here. So it kind of started then. And then when I just kind of got up and left and moved to Melbourne, even when I moved here, even like to this day, being 3.5 years now, I still have my gratitude and stuff every day where I still get up and walk down the street and be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is real. I still have my pinch me moments.
That's like me at the Gold Coast.
It's crazy. And I've been doing that for years. And then I only realized in the last 12 months that the more you do that, the more it comes in because you're showing gratitude and appreciation, which I didn't know I was already doing. But as the time has been going on, I've just been slowly tapping into it more. Like, honestly, like I told the viewers and I told you guys, reading stuff online, watching stuff, I'm doing more of that now in the last 6 months. The Joe Dispenza guy, I'm actually through you, I heard about him, but then I watched one clip. Now I'm seeing more and more, but then it puts me in the rabbit hole of other things. So I'm still learning about other things in that aspect as well. But to answer your question before I go off on another tangent, because I was already spiritual growing up, getting into this, tapping into this side of things, it made sense because a lot of the stuff, when they talk about the stuff, it goes back to God and stuff anyway, because they say we all come from God and the Spirit and stuff. But I always say to people, if you're not religious, if you don't believe in God, and I don't want to jump on this podcast and have, oh my God, this guy's like talking about blah, blah, blah. But I will say this though, if you are not religious, I respect that, but do understand you'd be ignorant to not assume there's something out there that's obviously propelling, projecting, and helping us in a certain way.
Yeah, or to at least question. My question then for you is, what would be your advice, especially to those that are just starting out, leaning into spirituality or leaning into personal development, even especially for the male listeners out there who may see themselves in you? I would love to hear your main piece of advice for those people who are listening that are ready to dip their toe in to do this work.
Be open to all forms of information, and when you find certain people of power who are trained and experienced in this type of conversation, you know, like your Joe Dispenzas, your Bob Proctors, you know, the law of attraction, all those, when you tap into those kind of people who have been doing this for a very long time and you feel comfortable watching those people and taking the advice on, grab a few of those people and just follow them and listen to what they're saying, because listening to too many different areas of that kind of world, you might fall into get too much misinformation, but be open to it. It took me a while to understand it, and at the beginning I thought it was a bit of hocus pocus, but there is a lot of science behind it. It's not all just supernatural and blah 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 and hocus pocus. It's actually scientifically proven as well that as we live in this world of just, we are the flesh, as we sit here, as Elise and I sit here, there's a lot of energy probably going on, and the energy was probably there when we first spoke, when we did the FaceTime. And if it wasn't there, we would have known it wasn't there. We'd been like, who, you know, and because the energy was there, that law of vibration was there. So we can definitely, we're a perfect example of how people can come together.
100%.
But in regards to you guys out there, you men out there, you got young men out there that want to kind of tap into this stuff, and you think it's all airy fairy, just, you know, in your own time, just research, have a look at it and test yourself. You know, meditation, I grew up having anxiety through my life, and my anxiety actually went from having CBD oil, but then I've had CBD oil for like 6 months now. I've been fine, but since I started meditating properly and understanding meditation and stuff, that's opened up a whole different thing as well. So meditation, obviously, you keep yourself calm, you control your emotions and stuff, but meditating also then opens up a whole bunch of other stuff in regards to what we're actually discussing. So be open to it. Speak to somebody that you trust, that you know, that you feel that you can talk to that about, and it's worth it. It's worth tapping into, getting into that kind of world of manifestation, and just, you know, that we're not just, we're souls and spirits living, and as opposed to the flesh. Once you understand that, you can do whatever you want. You can achieve whatever you want. You can get whatever you want. I know what I want is coming. Seeing signs and seeing things that are just so like, oh my God, it's like this, you know, the universe starts sending you signs and these things start happening. Once you understand that and you tap into it, you actually become a whole different person. You think you know yourself now in the physical presence. Once you know that your spiritual presence is a lot more powerful and more stronger, it's like we've been talking about the whole day today. Who you were yesterday is long gone. And, you know, all your troubles, all your stresses, all your uncomfortableness, your misbeliefs, your lack of confidence, all that stuff kind of goes when you find and realize tomorrow is a new day and you actually become a new person. People look at me online and see all the things I've achieved, but I'm still, with all the things I've learned in the last 12 months, I'm a new person today as opposed to 6 months ago, and constantly growing, because with the spirit, there's no time.
100%.
You know? There's no time with the spirit, and the manifestation has no time, and your time will come when the time is right. So
perfectly said. And if you are listening to this and you are wanting to do a bit more research, I did a podcast just before this one. If you go check it out, it's on manifestation. I literally throw all the signs I possibly could into like a 20-minute episode into that. So if you want to check out some science behind manifestation, energy, law of attraction, then definitely go have a listen to that. It's like Kayo said, right? We are 99.9% energy. Everything in this universe is energy and information. Matter is the slowest vibrational frequency. All energy has a frequency, and matter is just what we can perceive with our 5 senses. And when you hear the word your vibe attracts your tribe, that's literally what this is talking about. It's talking about when you are resonating at a certain frequency, when we have positive emotions, we're at an expanded higher frequency versus lower emotions, a lot slower, contracted, lethargic, tired, etc. When we're in an expanded energy, you're going to attract expanded people, expanded situations, expanded emotions. You're going to attract more of that to you. And literally, out of being interstate from each other, we somehow connected through social media. The beauty of social media, it connects everyone with everybody all over the world. If you're listening to this right now, it's connecting you with me and now Kayo as well. And it's because you are in the vibrational frequency and feeling the feelings of like this energy that we are in through this conversation today. And so it's like you're choosing to elevate, generation elevation. You're choosing to elevate yourself to the frequency of that which you want to attract, which at the end of the day, we all want to feel peace, love, happiness, abundance, joy, etc. And that's what this podcast is all about.
And can I just add, you guys have heard us talk this whole time, and what Elise just said, how we've just, a perfect example of like the law of attraction and how the law of vibration has brought us together. She's in the Gold Coast. I'm in Melbourne. By chance, and the tarot person saying,
my mentor, saying, Mia.
Right? She's in the Gold Coast, right? I'm in Melbourne. So I want you guys to visualize what I'm saying here, right? She's in the Gold Coast. I'm in Melbourne. We link up through Instagram. She tells me that she's originally from Melbourne, so she's familiar with the place. So she comes here now and then. And when she books the studio we are now, without even her knowing, it's actually 5 minutes walk from my place. So she doesn't know where I live. I didn't know the suburb as such. She didn't know. It's just by chance. So if that doesn't give you goosebumps, ladies and gentlemen, I walked here. So I could have had to drive. I could have had to go down the street. I could have had to go 10 minutes down the street driving. I literally walked, and it took me under 10 minutes to get here. So if that's not the universe telling us something, I don't know what it is. So that's an example of, we're not just talking to you guys and just talking hocus pocus and stuff. We're actually
talking from experience.
Talking from experience, and also, obviously trying to empower you guys. But as up until this moment of time of us being in the studio, the law of attraction and the manifestation of all the universe, the power and the strength of the universe is actually working in current time. So you guys got to tap into this girl. She's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, Kayo. And where can my audience find you if they want to connect with you online?
All social media platforms, of course, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, which is more business stuff, and music on over 30 digital streaming download sites.
Nice. And it's just Kayo Marbilus.
Kayo Marbilus. K-A-Y. I don't even want to say my name. She's going to have that.
We'll put it in the show notes,
She'll have it in there. You'll see it.
So yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Elise. She's amazing, guys.
Thank you.
She's doing amazing things. Make sure you keep watching what she's doing. She's kicking butt, man. And she's a perfect example of just, hustle and flow, hustle and go. Let's get it.
100%. Now, Kayo, I have one last question.
Sure.
Okay. I ask all my guests this, and the question is, first answer that comes to your mind. Doesn't have to relate to what we said today either.
Okay.
If you could give the listeners one piece of advice that they need to hear right now, what would it be?
Don't give up. Keep going, man.
Boom. That's it.
Easy done.
Thank you so much, Kayo. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being a part of the Generation Elevation community. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a 5-star rating, written review, share, and tag me on Instagram at elise.riley. Until next time, keep loving, keep learning, and keep rising.